Hello and welcome to the Edutalk series hosted by Biotone, Biotone Edu Partner Program, and massage industry experts. With the challenges continuing to face massage schools, students, and practicing therapists, thanks to COVID, the Edutalk series supports virtual learning and building massage community by connecting you with industry experts who will share their knowledge and expertise not only for class discussion, but career success. Tonight's expert is Kelli Lene, founder of Time Well Spent Wellness Exchange, a consulting and professional development company serving the wellness industry. Kelli's a certified ambassador to Sacred Stone Medicine and an active massage therapist who has focused her 30-year career on integrating timeless traditions with modern clinical skills. Let's listen and learn as Kelli explains how learning and integrating Indigenous healing traditions can benefit your practice. She'll share respectful and culturally sensitive ways to enhance wellness through the wisdom of Native cultures. Plus, she'll discuss the personal and professional rewards. Thank you for joining us, and please chat Kelli questions during the presentation, which will be answered at the end. And with that, I turn it over to Kelli. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm going to share the screen right away. Oop, here we go. Let's see if I can get it up. All right, this is my first time doing this with the this on here, so please forgive me if I stumble a little bit on here, but I wanted to make sure that I communicated clearly on this topic because it seems to be one that all of us are looking at. Primarily today, we're going to be dealing with how to incorporate Indigenous healing practices into the treatment room in a respectful way. And some tips and personal stories about my 30-year journey in this particular subject. And I just am overwhelmed with all the support and interest on this topic. As she said, my name is Kelli Lene, and I have been a massage therapist, manual therapist, neuromuscular therapist, and student for 30 years in the wellness industry. And so it's really important for me that, that we can see a way to respectfully explore this wisdom and these healing traditions in a way that we can share them with our clients, and we can also enhance our own personal lives. And that's the purpose of this. First of all, though, I would like to explain, she mentioned that I am a certified ambassador for Sacred Stone Medicine. And it's important for me to give you the information about this lineage that I follow. As you will notice at the very bottom of this page is my name. And I have studied under Jenny Ray, who studied with Chaz Thompson, who's part of the Stone Society, the Bear Clan, the Sante people, the Dakota tribe, and the Sioux Nation. And I give gratitude and acknowledgement for this as a way of you understanding that there are many different ways of participating. This is mine. It's not the only one. It's not the right one. Another one is not a wrong one. So if you have a particular system that you work with or a lineage that you work with, I honor you, and I honor the way that you bring the medicine to your treatment room. And by the way I use the word medicine is like energy. So it's not like pharmaceutical medicine, but it's actually what we bring to the treatment room with ourselves. So that was important for me to give that to you. There's been a real huge resurgence in some of the different types of approaches that we can bring into the treatment room that enhance more than just the manual therapy and the touch therapy. We're seeing that in the news reports. We're seeing that in reports from everything from the American Dental Association, who reported that they have worked on more cracked teeth in the last year than since recorded history. There's a lot of interest among universities to sponsor more mind, body, and spirit integration. In my own town in Tulsa, Oklahoma, OSU has been sponsoring an altars workshop for a way for people to connect with spirituality as a part of their well-being. Along with that has come, because of all the seeking and needing for people to feel connection with something beyond themselves, a resurgence in connection with nature with COVID. There has been a lot of marketing shifting from actually wellness into well-being, which incorporates more than just your physical health and your stress levels, but to your actual feeling of being well. And so that's another reason why people are seeking these kind of opportunities to go deeper into those connections. So this is a perfect time for us to talk about this. As a result, though, we are seeing, and we have seen in the past, what we call, little derogatory, plastic shaman. My elder, Jenny Ray, has quoted her dad as saying that sometimes you can't hear the prayers of a person over the jingling of the change in their pockets. So we are very careful about the fact that this is a business, but when we go into some of these deeper connections and mindfulness, that we not commoditize the ceremonies. So that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit more, is how do you balance that, your personal development and your professional, and keep it honorable. So what we're really talking about is the journey beyond technique. So this is from my own personal journey, and also talking to other therapists who have opted to go into these deeper, more mindful, connected systems and approaches. The first one is just awareness, both personally and professionally. A lot of us, I don't know why everybody goes into the practice, but I left corporate America because I wanted something that would always drive me to a stronger personal connection and my own personal growth along with professional. I wanted a profession that I would never know it all. There would always be something new to learn, something new to move in. And I jumped in with both feet, and there was so much novelty. It was such an emerging profession. So there was lots to learn, and I signed up for everything, and really focused on clinical technique and also indigenous healing traditions. I grew up on the Mexican border. So I grew up with a culture that embraces both the science and the tradition. So curanderas were just as familiar in my world as a doctor would be. And so it felt very comfortable for me, and it's something I've admired. And so I worked very hard right from the beginning to try to merge those together. With spa emerging at that time as a very strong one, we were looking at how to create experiences for people and how to tap into what makes your sense of place. So spas were really, really demanding that we come up with protocols and opportunities to take someone away from their everyday life in a treatment room. So that really fed into this whole love I have of different cultures and different traditions. From there, we had World Massage Festival was created, and they were one of the few organizations that really did, again, like me, allow us opportunities to be exposed to some of the masters of these indigenous traditions. Everything from Lomi Lomi to sacred stone medicine. So there's some traditional stuff from Australia that came up through that. So it was a wonderful way to be exposed and to meet some of these masters and to have an opportunity to sit in and to receive some of the treatments, to find out who the therapists are who are out there, who are the practitioners. They're not all massage therapists, they're practitioners. So it was a great opportunity for me to really find out. And at first, like a kid in a candy store, man, I was taking everything, every novelty out there. and took a lot of intro classes from there, which is where you get into your learning and the integration of treatment protocols, which is very technique focused. And you should be getting a lot of the efficacy of why the techniques work. And that's really important, especially if we're using this in a professional way. From there, you could start taking advanced workshops. They were, because the demand was there, and that's where we were getting into not only the technique and the science, the efficacy, but we were also looking at what are the traditions? Where did this come from? Also learning to ground ourselves, get into the mindfulness of being in the treatment room where it wasn't just a protocol, but we were actually connecting to the client in a different way. And also what I really loved was we got into therapeutic storytelling, which is being able to take a client into an experience that exposed them to the culture as well as to the technique. In some of my studies, I actually went to the deeper level and finally ended up with Sacred Stone Medicine through the Medicine Path program, which was specifically to take those of us who were wellness walkers into a personal journey that would be translated into not only our personal life, but what we did in the treatment room. And that's why I was going to share that with you. And then the ongoing deepening of our connection with the sacred and learning how to hold healing space. We are not healers. We get to hold space and we get to witness healing, which is a wonderful thing. And I get to support people on their wellness journeys. And that's where I'm at. And really, really find it rewarding. Some of you are probably already on some of these paths. I know especially with some of the programs I was in, and Sacred Stone Medicine specifically, really gave me a language for something I was already on the spiral journey of. And it always has a nice to be able to speak a common language with others. So there's a lot of talk about the difference between cultural appropriation and cultural appreciation, and about whether or not if you have the bloodline or you don't have the bloodline. I've been very fortunate, and a lot of us have been, and we are very grateful for elders and practitioners who have done the work, got the clearance, brought forward these traditional healing arts in a way that would honor their own people and their own lineage, but opened it up to non-natives. And it's a very, to get that passed for CEs in our profession and still be able to keep the tribal approval, I'm sure was a very difficult dance. And I am grateful every day that those who have sacrificed and worked so hard to be able to present these to us did so. And I give my most heartfelt gratitude for them. And the ones who are coming behind us who are willing to pick up that as well to move it forward so we don't lose them. So as you can see, what I did is based on my own experience and other people's opinions about the basic difference between cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. Obviously, cultural appreciation honors the origins, and respects the sacredness beyond the technique to the mind body. Even if I'm not going to participate in that particular spiritual path, I honor and respect that it's there. That we do authentic representations, so we don't take it and dilute it and turn it into something else and mix a bunch of things together, and so that when we represent that tradition, we're representing it in an authentic way. Therefore, we have to yield to authority. A lot of times when you get past the initial workshops, even the advanced workshops, when you get into some of the more deeper commitments, there is an authority that you're aware of that comes directly from the elders and the ancestors, and we have to yield to that authority. So we can only participate in what we're allowed to, we can only teach what we're allowed to, and we honor that. If you're not willing to honor that, then they won't share that information with you. So, and also there's a tremendous amount of humility when you get into this, that I don't claim anything. I am just a hollow bone, and I am so grateful that I get this opportunity to be that. And so, in cultural appropriation, and you're going to need to pay attention to this, especially if you're looking for somebody to study with or be mentored by. and also where you work, you know, how you're going to incorporate this in your treatment room. Because I see a lot of cultural appropriation. We've all seen it. And that's when you take, and I have been guilty of this in many, many years, where you take somebody's culture, their traditions, and you incorporate it into a trend, something, you know, that's easily marketed, something that spurs people's interest, but you're really only delivering on the very superficial. And so if you're turning it into a marketing trend, you know, I have to kind of look at myself sometimes, coming from a strong marketing background. If you present it as your own creation, and it's been done many, many times, which is part of the reason that, justifiably so, there's indigenous cultures that are suspicious of people wanting to learn their traditions, is because people will then turn it, change it a little bit, and then claim it as their own. Or they dilute it down to, again, the very most superficial aspects of it. So if you're using it as a marketing hook, if you're using claims of your importance, like you know, you're claiming to be some kind of guru or, you know, princess or healer, or like, we don't do that. We're very humble about what we are and our role in this. So I do have two at the bottom, and I'm not picking on Aveda, but they had a campaign in the early 2000s, and I'm sure they've learned from this. And it was actually a stone, a kind of stone purification, and they may still do it. I didn't look into it. I just looked at their promo on it, and they not only really claimed everything, but they trademarked it, which I thought was kind of interesting. So that's not the kind of thing that I'm going to be looking for. And that's certainly not the system I want to be involved with. Whereas if you go like to Cedar Stone Wellness Spa, which is actually a spa in Virginia, they truly have embraced these healing traditions. Their employees are put through a lot of mentoring as well as training. And anyway, there was just kind of, if you ever want to go look, you know, if you're ever curious, to me, those are perfect examples of a little bit, you know, more about the marketing, and the other is more about the representation. And so I couldn't do this without giving you some kind of idea about what this is. And this is about me telling on myself. Like I said, I have studied Asian-based, I have studied Cherokee, I have studied Ayurvedic, I've studied Thai. I mean, because I loved everything, and I don't incorporate everything. But one of the very first ones that I got into, and I went in beyond just an initial workshop, was Vigo, which is based on Mayan traditions. And, you know, just to give you an idea of how a journey could go if you really worked with it. So you start out with technique, what we talked about with a workshop. In this one, the primary purpose and focus was on reproductive health, wellness for men, mostly women, but we were also doing some for men. There was also personal development as a person with reproductive organs. I was learning a lot about, you know, they insisted that we learn about meditation and healing and all those. And then we had treatment protocols and case studies, and that's pretty typical. But then I got an opportunity to go to Belize and study with the actual curanderas that were members of the Traditional Healers Foundation, which had been created there in Belize. And it was a training, and got to participate in wellness ceremonies, herbal bathing, prayers, even their history, going to some of their ancient civilization, Mayan ruins, and having the healers work with us. And we were picking herbs, and they were storytelling their traditions. They were testing some of us. And that's one of the things that I love about these healers, is they will do a lot of testing, because they're choosing people based on their quality of their heart and not the color of their skin. And again, great gratitude for that. And also, when you start getting into the cultural training, you also start understanding that it's a two-way street. As they support you in your education and your knowledge, you support them any way you can, including financially. The spiritual was offered to me. I turned it down at that time. It was very early in my career. It terrified me, absolutely terrified me. But all of this prepared me to move forward in seeking more deeper deeper understanding. So I used Arvigo's, the Mayan traditional. I loved it. I still love it. I still use it. But I didn't take it any further than that, and that's fine. I didn't claim anything. I didn't change anything. I just honored what I had learned and what I agreed, because that was the covenant I had at that level. I did also study Lomi Lomi, which a lot of us have. It's just a really beautiful approach to the body. And again, basic workshop, learned long forearm strokes, learned range of motion. It was a lot of fun. Went to the second level, got into relaxation and unique experience, kind of getting into the cultural influences. I had a spa school at the time, and so I was creating these protocols where, we could have ocean sounds and Hawaiian music. We had the appropriate aromatherapy for, to take them to Hawaii, tropical print linens. I mean, it was just definitely, connecting those long strokes now and those range of motion is part of the dance. Now that I've met some kumus and, masters, and, it was, again, it's a lovely, I enjoyed it. I like to think that my clients have enjoyed it, and I certainly use some of those strokes and intention. But it was a very superficial, version of it. For me to go beyond that, now that I've met people who've gone beyond that, it is just kind of a, it was just kind of a toe in the water kind of thing. But I have such a respect for those who dive deep into that experience. Now, not everybody's going to be able to do a full traditional of anything because of the work setting, but the closer you can get to that with that intention of really representing and honoring those cultures, the better you have a chance of not stepping on the other side, which is to take advantage of and to create a cartoon version. So I have a lot to be a little embarrassed about, but when you know better, you do better. I have a quote on here from Kumu Brenda Ignacio, who one of the most beautiful human beings, I'm going to cry a little bit, I have ever met. And she probably did more to help me understand the differences in really appreciating and representing. And she talks about the embodiment of reverence, wisdom, knowledge, and connection, and completely different experience than Hawaiian music, jasmine, essential oils, and print, Hawaiian print. So just to give you that. Okay, now this one is where I'm at now. And you can see, again, the same kind of journey, and you can stop at any point and really still, be bringing a lot to the table. It's up to you and your commitment. For me, this is the one that ended up speaking to my heart and took me all the way forward, which is, started out with the technique as a wellness walker. That's what we call. And the focus was on therapeutic body work, using the stones specifically in order to enhance the geothermal effect, learning how to use the stones safely, to really deepen their effect. I'd already been working with stones forever. They give me a thing about it. Man, this time is going fast. Sorry, y'all. Well, look at this. You can look at this later. But then I move into Stone Walker, which I've taken enough classes. Now they trust me to represent the traditions and really get into learning their herbal therapies, the storytelling, traditional music, assist with grounding and reduction. So that was really important to me. And now I'm at the point where I'm a certified stone medicine ambassador. It's a completely different commitment than we make. And it's just been a really big personal journey. And the deepening of understanding, the deepening of my gratitude, the connections with my clients, even though I'm still doing primarily clinical style work, but being able to incorporate this brings it so that I can serve the whole person. And a different Mitako Asan, which is all the relations. And there's a quote in there from Jenny as well. Okay, and oops, sorry, I don't know how to undo this. I hear a lot of fear when, sorry, I went too far ahead. Okay. Y'all, I got so much stuff in here, I can't see where I'm doing. Okay, so when you're looking at somebody to study with, this is another thing you need to really look at, is look at what their lineage is. I gave you the lineage of who I study with, their authenticity, and their personal philosophy and motivation about teaching non-natives. Now, I personally have Lenape in my lineage, but that's not the reason I got accepted in the program, and it's not the reason that that creators been able to use me, and the connection is there. This is available for everybody. Once a elder has established with their own tribal lineage that what they can teach, that's the agreement that's made. That's the covenant. So you don't have to have the bloodline in a lot of these cases. Some they only teach their own bloodline, and that's absolutely understandable. So what you want to look at is somebody who has a personal philosophy and motivation about, what that is about teaching non-natives, that you have a connection with them, that they have a community involved. The ego is really important. Is it about them, or is it about the covenant? An educational support system, and then sustainability. There is a difference between having a business and commoditizing. So we want to make sure that, yes, we make a living at this, but we also don't make money the primary factor. So that's important for us. When you're studying with an elder, and you guys can look at this, this time goes so fast, is that I want you to remember, this is me assisting in classes over the years and seeing where so many people missed an opportunity to learn from an elder because they didn't understand. This is an oral tradition. Sometimes when you're in a workshop, one table will hear something from the elder and you'll stop what you're doing and rush over there because you think you're missing out on it. And in reality, that was for them in that moment. And you'll hear what you need to hear. And so it's really important to learn to trust that the process of how the education runs is part of the education. It goes beyond just the exchange of knowledge. So always listening and observing to show respect before you start asking questions. And checking with yourself. They really do emphasize, in my experience is, and wanting you to step forward in faith and make the mistakes. And they're not shameful at all. They never shame anybody. If they correct you, it's a sign that they care. And they're not seeking your adulation. They really, but they do insist on respect. And if they think that the group doesn't have an understanding of what this is, they'll only give so much information, and you'll miss out on a lot, which is always a shame because it's such a rare gift to get to do this. Okay, again, taking the time to learn your cultural background of everyone who is what you're involved in is a sign of respect. And as you learn about the struggles, not just the celebrations, not just the contributions, but also the struggles and atrocities, it's really hard for you to disrespect when you know the sacrifices that were made to keep this cultures going and keep these healing traditions being offered. And over and over and over again, I just remind myself that people had every reason not to share this with us, show their love for people and the earth by doing just that, opening that up to us. And I'm always so mindful of that sacrifice and so grateful. So I tell my students all the time, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to get out there and actually do these, in a respectful way. Learn, find your mentors, always question your motives. Make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Respectful and awkward. We always say this, respectful and awkward offerings are so much more important than doing things exactly right. Finding a mentor that will hold you accountable, or a group, to walk in gratitude, never take for granted what they did, and always be in awe of the love of humanity and the earth that allowed them to share this with us. And honor the covenant you make, whatever that covenant is, at whatever level you're at, you have to honor that. That's important. And then I listed on here, and you'll get this in your handout, these are just some of the people I've talked about, or some of the resources that I've talked about as examples, and as a way to reach out if you want more information. And mine is at the very bottom, but I know that's a lot of information. I covered it really quickly, and I appreciate you all handling my fumbling with the PowerPoint. And I think we're at the end of that. So I think we're ready for questions if there are any. And again, just want to show so much gratitude for the amount of interest there is in taking your practice to a deeper level. And for those who have shared their experiences with us.
Well, thank you, Kelli. And boy, I know we could go deeper with this talk. I know we could spend more time on it. And, you know, please just expand on it if you'd like to for a few more minutes.
Okay.
I'm sure everyone would enjoy listening to more that you have to say on this. So don't worry about the time.
Okay, I'm good, because I'd like to go back and talk about some of this. Is that if you have, again, I've seen some really good people with really good intentions who have put stopgaps on themselves because they're terrified that they're going to be appropriating, and when reality, whenever I come to that, and I've had that, you know, been challenged and had those concerns myself. But then I remember the sacrifices that my elders have made and the ones their ancestors before them for just this reason, so that the healing traditions do not end with them, that this wisdom that has been passed down and sacrificed all these years can still move forward, because their love of people is so great that they want that healing to be available. And for me to have received the gift of that knowledge and received their gift of time and focus and my development, and then not to pass it on in the treatment room or in my own personal life, that would be, I hate to use the word sin, but that would be it. It would be a sin. So for those of us who have gotten the training and we're hesitant, I really want you to move forward and really dig deep into that idea that the sacrifices have already been made. Let's not let them be wasted. Whatever your circumstances are, whatever your setting is, there is a way to honorably do as much as you can. And I really want you to do that. I did want to share a really short story. When I was working with the Traditional Healers Foundation in Belize, I asked specifically, how did they decide which of the traditional healers they brought in? What are some of the criteria they looked for? Because we all are all about the credentials. And so their criteria was a healer in general had a really strong love of people, a really strong sense of humor, a knowledge beyond education, an understanding beyond knowledge, and they had absolute confidence coupled with absolute humility. And that's because they know it doesn't come from them. And I just loved that. And I have passed that story on to my clients and, and in my classes, because I think that just kind of puts it all together, that love of people. And whether it's Asian or island or Pacific or Native American or First Nations or, the Hispanic tradition coming out of Mexico and the curanderas, if you are respectful, if you check yourself and really know why you're there, I have found more often than not, they are so receptive, because again, they also have a covenant to move this forward, to make it available to the people because of their love of people. So that's really important. And knowing how to receive that information. Like I said, I've sat in these workshops, especially some of the large ones, and I've seen people completely miss all this opportunity for this wisdom because they're so trapped into a very westernized kind of education. And so if you get an opportunity to sit in a room with an elder, if it's you and 3 people or you and 100 people, I mean, come in that with an open heart, open ears, and a closed mouth. I mean, until it's time. Just really dive deep, be mindful in it, because there are some amazing things you're going to see that you will never see in an MFR class. I'm sorry. It's just, I come from such a clinical background. So, I mean, and I have a strong educational background, but my elder has just kind of been very understanding of my awe when I see something happen that doesn't have any explanation for me initially, and I thought would never happen. And that's just how people interact with each other. Like World Massage Festival one year, we got to see Kuma, Brenda, and Jenny, grandmother Jenny, in a treatment together. I mean, both these very powerful, dedicated elders in a room together, working together. And it was just magic. And you couldn't be in that room and not see the respect that these two people had for each other and each other's lineages. But they're also very clear about one wasn't the other, and you don't mix them together. But it was just one of the most beautiful opportunities you're ever going to get to see that universal healing that's available for if we just go in deep and we just dive. And so for those of you who are seeking something to do besides just treatment protocols, a way to connect with clients, to have them feel connected to you in a way that they're not going to get any other way. And for someone, even though I've just done TMJ work, but I finished it up in a way that connected them and organized them together. For those of you who study cranial sacral, you'll understand about the organizing and the connecting. And actually, after I finished the Medicine Path program, which was a 2-year program, I actually immediately went into another program that was cranial sacral and Rolfing and all this stuff. And so I have said more than once, I would never have been able to really dive deep into cranial sacral if it hadn't been for the Native American traditions, that training that I did there. So you never know where one's going to take you to the other. I mean, I never dreamed that the Mayan traditions would take me, to the next one, and then that would help me learn another level of base to take me to the next one. And so you never know how, but every day I actually think the two Curanderas I studied with 25 years ago, I thank them, even though they've both passed over, I thank them all the time for their efforts on my behalf and their time they spent with me to let this very cocky, neuromuscular therapist know that there was a whole lot more out there and available to me if I would just let go of preconceived notions and open up a little bit and start a dive a little deeper. And so Hortense and Beatrice, gratitude. So.
Well, thank you. I'm going to turn off your PowerPoint there. Okay. And I haven't seen any chats come in, so maybe they just want you to keep talking. But to our audience, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Excuse me. And Kelli, I could keep listening and listening.
If we keep going, I'd have to start showing, those.
Right. I believe it. And you said something that just in the last part about not mixing them.
Right.
So if you're, let's say, doing a Swedish massage on someone, you would not bring in an indigenous healing technique, or how do I interpret that?
That's a great question. It's a great question. No, what that means is that I wouldn't start with a Lomi traditional massage or body work or session, however you want to call it, and then mix in sacred stone medicine from a different tribe necessarily. But yes, all the time I'm mixing with the clinical. We have what we call altar stones, and I'll place them on the center of the body, warmed stones with some weight to them, and we call those altar stones. They represent the grandmother and the grandfather, and what they do is they help support and ground somebody. But as we know scientifically, what that does is it helps relax the vagus nerve, which we're now learning so much more about. No one ever used to talk about the vagus nerve, and now we know just how important it is. So yes, you can mix these things in together, but when we're representing if I'm representing a sacred stone protocol, then that's what I do. I do that protocol. And even if I bring in the medicine, say I'm going to bring in salmon medicine or bear medicine, we'll mix those up, you know, between bear and salmon, and based on what the client needs and what we're sensing. So yeah, a lot of times I'm bringing in sacred stone medicine with cranial sacral. But if I'm representing it as a stone medicine, or if it was a lomi lomi, then that's what I would do. I wouldn't mix it in with chakra work, which I love chakra work, but I wouldn't mix it with these other traditions. I would let the medicine be what it is. So if I'm going to do chakra work, I'll mix that into a session, but I wouldn't necessarily mix it in with a rain bath ceremony. So that's what I meant by keeping it pure. And if I teach, then I'm only teaching that. I wouldn't start incorporating all these different things together, because it gets confusing just talking about it. Somebody asked me about sharing some client stories. Oh man, you know, I have to say, I mean, my clients, and I do keep an active private practice. I always have, no matter how much I've taught, no matter how much I consult. I love my time in the treatment room. It is so important to me. I love supporting people in their wellness journeys. And so they're used to me coming, you know, and I'm a master of anything is a master student. I mean, I go to so much training. I love massage therapists and body workers and wellness walkers. I love being in a room with them. I love being in training with them. I have such a great respect for other educators and their approaches. So I'm always, if I'm not teaching, I'm in class or I'm in the treatment room. So my clients are used to me bringing new novelties, new approaches, new technique, you know, oh, let's try this with your TMJ now. And they're used to that. But with, especially the deeper dive with sacred stone medicine, or anyone that you pick that you follow into, is there's going to be this base of grounding and emotional support that they'll never have received before from you. My work just slowed down. I listened to the body more. I listened to my clients more. Sometimes having them tell their story in its full expression, instead of just looking for the tips I need in order to go, oh yeah, I'm going to have to go to the back. I have to do the iliopsoas. I'm going to have to, instead of just like jumping into the protocol that I'm going to be doing, the treatment plan, if I truly pay attention and I'm mindful and I let them tell their story, it's almost as important, if not more important, that they be able to say their story than it is for what I actually do with my hands. And so those are some of the stories that, I mean, they're just endless, where, you know, the hope that they receive, I don't expect emotional releases on my table. It's not something I'm going after. But with the Indigenous trainings I've been in, they all consistently have had training in how to hold that space so that people can do the hard work, the emotional connections to their injury, their fear, lots of tears from very tough people because they thought this was their new normal. And they learn, and the trust that they have for you happens really quickly. Because I hear a lot of people, how do you go from a clinical into a traditional? And, you know, and actually, you know, that trust is there. I'm just very honest, and we, you know, we pay attention to what they're saying to me, and listening to what they need. And so just my listening skills alone have become the number one most important technical clinical skill I have. And hearing them talk about it has made a big difference. Feeling them go into themselves in a deeper way, watching them, and I use weighted blankets, certainly cranial sacral is a big part. I use a lot of stones, obviously, and sometimes it's just for the weight and heat, just to get through the hypervigilance, just to help them come into center. Those are huge stories. We do a stone symbol with stone medicine. If I use stones on the body, then they're put onto the floor in some type of pattern. It's a stone symbol. And you know, some of the people that you would think would be the least interested in that, and I always let them ask me questions. It lays there. If they ask me a question, we talk about it. If they don't, we just go on. But they are just fascinated. And just the other day, I had gotten a large stone. It's called a dragon stone, dragon egg. It's beautiful. And in fact, after I got it, somebody else offered me twice as much money for it. And I was like, no, I just got it. It's going in the treatment room and it's an egg. And a client of mine who comes in for clinical work, he's had a lot of surgeries because he wrote it like he stole it his whole life. And so I keep him going. Anyway, he was talking about, just as I was working and talking, he got into talking about a hurtful experience with his adult son and feeling left out and, wanting to have that deeper connection with him. And I just handed him that stone, that egg. And he just kept talking, they're used to me throwing stuff on him. And he was cradling the egg like it was his baby. It was his. And the more he talked about his son, the more he cradled it to his bosom, like you would a baby. And he never let go of that stone. And it was a big, heavy stone until I had to move him to do some sideline work. And he didn't want to let the stone go. And this man is an engineer and a car guy, but I set the stone over there, and when he got ready to leave, I put it in his hands. Now he's a very good client, and I just put it in his hands and I said, this is yours. This goes with you. It's obvious. And by the time he had left, he had just so calmed down, and he was just so hopeful, and you could just tell his demeanor. It wasn't just the physical ease in which he moved. He was just, his mind and his spirit was just much more at ease. And he just, of course, cried and said, no, I need to pay you for this. And I said, it's priceless, so it has no price. Enjoy it. His wife called me that night and said he had been walking around the house with this egg all night and just cradling it. And then he let me know a couple of weeks later that he had a really frank discussion with his son about wanting, what would it take for them to have a close relationship. I didn't have anything to do with it, but I got to witness it. And I'm telling you, there isn't a much better way to spend your day than getting a chance to be connected to people in such an intimate way, but not take any responsibility. I don't take any blame. I don't take any credit. It's such a wonderful place to be in, to just be able to, the treatment plans in the body and just, I hope that's what you meant by stories about clients. Just all kinds of things with, different stones and I'm going to talk on the business side for a second too, because some of you, we make a living at this. This is what we do. When you have those deeper connections with people, even if it's just like for me, the stones and the aromatherapy and things like that, those are very customized things that I do for them. They're not going to get that anywhere else because, the time that it takes and the attention and the mindfulness. And so I don't have to worry about marketing myself. I never have. I've never had a business listing. I've never had a business phone listing. I've never had a single ad. And I have worked full-time at this for 30 years. Now I started from a business background and I started from a marketing background, go figure. But I really have worked all this time. And I do believe that all the indigenous traditions that I studied and those approaches made me available to clients in a way that they're not used to. And so even in the little ways that you can do this, you can customize this. I have clients who you would, MDs and science people and engineer people, very pragmatic people who connect very strongly with this type of work. And they trust it because it's pragmatic and there's no ego involved. And so they actually seek it out, and I really have a really high retention, and I think that's the reason, is that yes, I do good work, I get good results, I'm highly educated, highly experienced therapist, but part of it is just that safe space that we create for them, and sometimes they say it's a safe place for them to say the hard things with no judgment. So all of that came from the training I got with the elders, the different elders. And I, again, so grateful, because where do you get to go where someone sees you, hears you, responds to your needs, in all kinds of ways, whether it's a special oil, because they came in sunburned, or they needed some more calming, or, a stone. And it's reciprocal, because I have so many clients who go on these really expensive, exotic vacations. Some of you have those too. I had one that went from did the 7 wonders of the world before COVID, obviously. Illegally, did not know this, illegally brought back a stone from every place they went. I have doctors who go on these big elk hunting trips where they have to pack everything in and out, and they'll have stones in their pockets for me, because they knew that would be something I would love. And so having them think of me and the work that we do together when they're on vacation or away, tells you something about that relationship and that connection. And I love it. And I display those with as if they were the most precious gems in the world. And if there is a stone that someone comes across that they really, that's how I pay it forward. Somebody goes through a divorce and they happen to latch on to a pink quartz heart, or, take it with you. It's yours. If you get done with it, you don't need it, then pass it on to somebody else or bring it back to me. So anyway, that's another way, though. It is a great way to build your practice. And I truly believe that you can design your practice to spend your day with people you love to spend your day with, doing something you really love doing. And then it becomes your vocation as well as your avocation. And so that's what I wish for all of you.
That's beautiful. Well said. Well, thank you so much. And I am glad you have your contact information in the PowerPoint. And we'll send that out tomorrow along with the recording of Kelli's Edutalk tonight. Again, thank you for joining us. And please watch your in-basket for upcoming invitations to the Edutalk series. We have an incredible lineup over the next 2 months. May 4th, we have Shamaya Cha with medical massage, how, what, and why. May 18th, we have a returning Edutalk speaker, Carrie D'Ambrosio, total body evaluation. June 8th, we have Doug Nelson with the art of clinical decision-making. June 15th, we're squeezing another Edutalk into the month of June. We have James Weslowski, integrated manual therapy for low back pain, hip pain, and sciatica. And closing out June with the Edutalk series, we have Judith Koch Stapleton with prenatal massage, why specialized training matters. And I think you just addressed that as well, Kelli, in your talk tonight. And it's fascinating. I wish you lived nearby so I could become a loyal client as well. But thank you so much. And thank you everyone for attending. And if there are any last questions, now is the time. Kelli, do you have anything further in wrapping up? Any live events or?
Just wash day. Thank you. Thank you for your interest.
Are we able, someone asked, are we able to sign up ahead of time for classes?
I will have, the last page I have is resources. So if you have any specific questions or areas that you're in, we're just now, just now live classes are starting to happen again. Thank you. And then there's also Sacred Stone Medicine is who I teach through, and I put their website on there. And and if you're more interested in specifically that, look up Jenny Ray. I have her on there, and Kuma, if you're in Hawaii. I'm going to be there eventually, Kuma. You're just going to be stuck with me. We're ready. We've been going deep because we couldn't go outside. So we've been going in deep. So we're ready to start, getting, hands on people and helping people, like I said, move from just a vocation into an avocation. Highly recommend it.
And one last question, do you give workshops?
We do have workshops, like I said, we haven't got anything on the books yet because we're just now waiting for the states to open up and for it to become available. So make sure you reach out to me or Sacred Stone Medicine, and we'll keep you in the loop. And if you have an idea of where you want us to come, we'll certainly travel. But yeah, I'm just looking forward to be amongst my people.
That's it. That's it. Well, we're certainly happy you joined us tonight for Edutalks. And to our audience, we're extremely happy that you have joined us as well to listen to Kelli. And please, again, keep an eye on your in-basket for upcoming invitations to Edutalks. And tomorrow we'll send out the link and Kelli's handout. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Everyone take care. Be safe. Thank you.